Fortnite Chapter 3. Chapter 3 really felt like the end of the classic era of Fortnite that everyone really knew and loved back then, before we transitioned into the more modern phase with Chapter 4. I mean, hey, you just had to be there. The vibes of Chapter 3 Season 1 were insane. They took everything they learned from Chapter 1 and 2 and then put it together to create Chapter 3. People were hyped, everyone was happy, people that didn't play Fortnite were talking about it because of many reasons. Chapter 3 Season 1 was probably one of the best season launches we've ever had, and dare I say, it was the best chapter launch we've ever had. From the hype of the Chapter 2 end event, to the opening cutscene of Chapter 3 that played when you first logged in after the servers went up, to the fantastic map, the story kicking into overdrive, and to the incredible and iconic updates, this season really felt special. And hey, just like I said in my Vibin video, you know it was a good season if it brought C-Day back. You know, in order to truly understand why this was so insane, how about I set the stage for you? October 2021, reveal of the Cube Queen, a mysterious character who we knew not much about, and actually was the first secret bonus skin to actually be secret since Chapter 2 Season 1. Around this time, rumors started coming up that Chapter 2 would only be an 8-season-long chapter instead of a 10-season-long chapter like Chapter 1 was. Fast forward a bit, live event announced. It's called The End. Here's the logo. It's got a bit of foreshadowing in there. Keep that in mind. Fast forward, December 2021. The live event happens. No one really knows what to expect, if you didn't get it leaked, and everyone's really excited. Then they hit us with this. No! And this.
I got over it.
They actually did it.
Oh, and especially this.
Oh my god.
It is turning upside down.
Oh my god.
Oh my god!
Ah, you suck.
Event ends. We're sent to a website containing a new default Jonesy, a pixelated map, and the knowledge that people have to start flipping their profile pictures and using the hashtag #FlipTheIsland. The map seems very snowy, well, from what you can tell from here. Meanwhile, while everyone on Twitter is busy flipping their profile pictures upside down, our characters who were left stranded in the ocean start to get closer and closer and closer to the new island. Back to the island, it's becoming more and more clear now. Hey, wait a minute. Some of those POIs look pretty familiar. Servers go down, servers come up. Intro cutscene, playable intro cutscene.
Whoa, we're on an island.
The Foundation has something to say to us.
I suppose I owe you an explanation. We've all been through a lot the last few years, and there's much more you don't even remember. You've all fought a good fight. But until we set the 0 point free, we'll be facing threats like the last reality, and worse. There will be no escaping it. That's why I need your help to destroy the imagined order. As long as they're exploiting the 0 point, everything is in danger. With your help, we can free ourselves from this place and leave the loop for good. We can all go home.
Welcome to Chapter 3. Hey there, also, just as a quick reminder, because we do this all the time, code ChuggaChug in the item shop, no spaces, hashtag epic partner. Also, the Discord is reopened and channel members get bloopers now, in case you guys are interested. Well, here we are. New chapter, new map. Right off the bat, this is one of the most solid maps we've ever had. Even now, to this day, I still think that Chapter 3 is probably one of the best maps we have ever had. The home of the Seven was revealed. It was named Sanctuary. It had a giant statue of the Foundation, really hammering in the fact that he is the leader of the Seven. There's some other interesting parts about this map. There's a sand biome in the bottom right corner, and an active volcano on the top right with a small landmark named the Temple next to it. Greasy Grove returns on the bottom left, a landmark near the middle of the map named Loot Lake. This all seems a little bit familiar. Shifty Shafts returned with an extra shaft that was shifty, and it ended up being so cool that I landed there. That was my drop spot. There's a mysterious POI that's covered in ice right now. We'll keep watch on that though. Enough about the map, what about the weapons? Well, Chapter 3 did something very interesting. They gave us a complete loot pool refresh for the very first time. We had the MK7, Mark 7? I don't know. Everyone always says MK, but who cares? This was our very first red dot assault rifle in Fortnite, something that would become a staple of later Fortnite. There was the Ranger AR, which worked pretty much just like a heavy AR, but a little bit more accurate. You had the Striker Pump and Auto Shotgun, which were replacements for the Pump and Tactical Shotguns. There's the Hunter Bolt Sniper, replacing the Standard Bolt, and then the soon-to-be villain of the loot pool, the Stinger SMG. Oh yeah, there was also the Sidearm Pistol. Now, something interesting to note about the Sniper is that this season, Epic decided to nerf every sniper in the game so that they can no longer one-shot upon headshotting someone. This didn't stick, but it would get revisited in the near future with a different class of weapons. That's not for this video though. There were a few healing updates too. All the classic healing items stayed in the game. However, we had the new addition of Medmist and Tents. Medmists were nice because this was the first healing that you could really use on the go, and Tents were cool because if you threw them down, not only would you go inside them to heal, but you could also store weapons. And by store weapons, I mean you would store them from match to match. You could actually see this from one of the clips I used in my Vibin video. The loot pool was very interesting because every single base weapon from Chapter 1 and 2 was replaced fully for the very first time. They would go on to start doing this every single chapter. They didn't get it quite right the first time, but eventually they learned. Kinda. The shotguns were also eventually buffed to be a bit stronger and help people get used to them. However, there were still the faded SMGs. Although it wouldn't be the first season to do so in Fortnite's history, Chapter 3 Season 1 quickly leaned into a spray meta because the SMGs were doing this, while shotguns were doing that. Weapons aren't the only new thing this chapter, we got a new core movement mechanic. This is the first new core movement mechanic that has been added since swimming. Sliding.
Oh, that's so cool.
This wasn't too crazy helpful for the first season of the game, but it was really useful for sliding down the hills on the map. However, this would go on to become way more powerful with a few additions in the future. Again, not for this video. What would a season be without a battle pass? This battle pass was pretty cool, but I want to focus specifically on two characters, the Foundation and Spider-Man. The Foundation is our second Fortnite original secret skin since Chapter 2 Season 1, with the last one being the Cube Queen. He's the leader of the Seven, and they want to free the Zero Point and send everyone back to their home worlds. He was also a boss on the map at Sanctuary, and if you shot him, or stood in his way, he would get really upset at you. Eliminate him, and congrats, you were rewarded with a mythic MK7. If you played Chapter 4 Season 4 or Reload, you actually still don't know how busted this thing is because it was even stronger back then.
Can I just say that the Foundation is the only secret skin that I actually like?
Did you try to fall damage? Oh my god.
CJ, I caught you whacking this bad, huh?
Yeah. For our other character, Spider-Man, I want to talk about him because of something gameplay-wise. He's less story relevant than the Foundation, but he brought one of the most fun gameplay items to the table. Web swinging. The web shooter mythic felt butter smooth, allowing you to traverse the map quickly with the downside of being exposed. One shot and you're falling with no protection.
See, I remember I used to be.
This comboing with sliding was a really fun thing to be added to the game, letting you really feel like Spider-Man. A lot of the times more so than some of the official Marvel games. Before we move on, some other things to note. Crawling speed was increased and knock players are allowed to drop and interact with things. The reboot van was changed to be slower, but it could now be used by multiple people at the same time in order to speed it up. I'm pretty sure this also applied to knock players at the time too. Shakedowns were also removed. Quad crashers were unvaulted, but the physics were changed so you couldn't fly with them like you could in Chapter 1. Victory crowns were added. Not much to say because I feel like they aren't that important. I personally switched main skins from Dire to Big Chuggus after 3 years. You can start to see me use them more as this video will go on. Lachlan managed to sneak a pump shotgun into a tent before it got removed somehow. And for the level up sound check, adventurous. Well, it looks like Epic knocked it out of the Pleasant Park with Chapter 3 so far, so what's next? Ever since Chapter 2 started, it's pretty much tradition for Winterfest to start at the start of a chapter. This is another point where the good memories of this season start to flow in with people. It seems to happen a lot whenever Winterfest is thrown into the equation. The Christmas bus used the old music this time from Season 2. The Lodge from Chapter 2 Season 1's Winterfest came back with Sergeant Winter this time instead of Crackshot. Speaking of Sergeant Winter, he's important now. He drives around the map. He throws presents at people. He really is Fortnite Santa. The snowball launcher came back. Something to note is that it had the Chapter 1 pickup sound. I always thought that was kinda cool. This Winterfest had a banger song, one of my favorite Winterfest themes that we've ever had.
Wonderland of snow.
Vibes were really up at this point. A lot of old players were returning and people were just happy. Around this time, we also got some new stuff. We got a new item being the shield keg. This was a new healing item where you would throw it down and then it would start spraying shield everywhere. You could use this to heal you or your teammates. You can also destroy it so that no one else can use it when you're done. There's also a new mechanic, which is weather. Now, when I say weather, I don't mean the purple storm that closes around the map. I mean actual weather. Tornadoes and lightning. Tornadoes would roam around the map and then they would destroy pretty much anything in sight. And if you went inside them yourself, you would be able to use glider redeploy. Lightning is less talked about. Lightning could strike and it would hit you. You would take damage, but then you would have increased movement speed. Kind of like a little trade-off there. This was all pretty cool stuff to keep us occupied. However, while we were occupied, the snow started to melt more and more, getting closer and closer to frosty fields. Yes, that's what that POI was called, by the way. And eventually it melted, revealing... Wait, is that... On January 18th, 2022, exactly 4 years after its debut, that rhymed, wow, Tilted Towers made its grand return to Fortnite. Probably being the most well-known POI in Fortnite's history at this point, Tilted's return was huge. Everyone landed there just like they used to. It was even in the same spot as the map as it used to be, being right by Loot Lake. There was also a new creature roaming the map. Now we've had wolves, boars, chickens, and even raptors in Fortnite, but we've never had this. Say hello to Clombo. Clombo would wander around the map and would eat clomberries and also any loot that you gave him. He could also give you loot back. He broke through builds and his blowhole also acted as a geyser. You could use it to glider redeploy. Good for movement. Clombo was a community fan favorite, and like, come on, can you blame anyone? Look at him. Just don't make him mad. The grenade launcher was unvaulted, but this is when they started to do some interesting things. They gave it a rework. Now before, grenades launched from a grenade launcher would explode after a set period of time. Now, grenades explode after their first bounce. This made the weapon way more accessible and easy to use, but it would remove some strategy that people had before. It also was a bit spammable, just thought I'd note. 1 week later, and they added another new healing item, pizza. This is the pizza party. The pizza party item would throw down a box of pizza and it would have 8 slices. The slices would heal for 25 health and shield together, capping at 100 health and 50 shield. You could also pick them up to carry them individually. Now this was a very good healing item for sharing with your squad or for quick use. As you can see, they are doing good with content flow this season. Everything was so fun that it kinda makes you forget that the IO is trying to drill to this side of the map. Wait. So, the IO has been drilling and they set up base at a new location called Covert Cavern. This place strongly resembled the Grotto, which is an old POI from Chapter 2 Season 2 that a lot of people grew fond of. One of the members of the IO, Gunner, was the boss of this POI. If you eliminated him, congrats, you got the Gunner Stinger SMG Mythic in your hands. This was a weird one. This weapon was stronger damage-wise than the regular Stinger SMG, but had an oddly added downside of having way more recoil. Because of this, many people just decided to use the legendary version instead. Sure, it did like 1 or 2 less damage, but like, I feel like it's worth it if you can actually hit your shots. Now there was another weapon that got added to the loot pool this update, being the heavy shotgun. Just like the grenade launcher, this thing also got a pretty massive rework. Originally, this weapon functioned as sort of an in-between between a tactical and a pump shotgun. It had longer range than a pump, with a tighter spread and faster fire rate. Now of course, having a tighter spread, this weapon ended up being based around accuracy and range. But if you think that's tight, you haven't seen the rework. This was our first single slug shotgun in the game, relying purely on aim and skill and nothing else, at least when aiming down sights. The downside of this is that even when hip firing, there was still only 1 pellet fired, meaning this is also the first shotgun in the game to have bloom. With this rework, it also got a significant fire rate increase, rivaling the auto shotgun. This weapon had a gimmick. You better learn to aim, or else you're cooked. They also officially added the machine pistol with the content update. This gun has a bit of a weird history. There was an earlier version that would accidentally be added to the game many times with LTMs years before it officially came out. And of course, they did nod to this too. You know, it's kinda cool seeing this reworked stuff from Chapter 1 reappear into the game years later. And they didn't stop there. Fortnite decided to do a little bit of a collab with Uncharted, having skins to represent both the movie and the game. With edit styles, by the way, not separate skins. That's cool. That's really cool. Now this collab brought back the treasure map, which was an item from Chapter 1 Season 8, but this time it was rebranded as Drake's map. It worked just like a treasure map did. You pick one up, it shows you an arrow, there's an X, and as you all know, X marks the spot. Now there's one more update we gotta talk about. After a funny glitch was discovered involving the Foundation statue, Epic decided to be funny and placed tires around it to honor it. Fortnite also decided to celebrate International Women's Day, and the map looked beautiful. The colors, At this point, as you might be able to tell, this season started to wind down a little bit, but not in a bad way. This season was fantastic. A lot of the things they did were done right, and it was a really cool time to be a Fortnite fan. All of the infinite hype from this season really resonated with a lot of us, and I can say very confidently that this season was the best launch to a new chapter we've ever had. However, things were about to shift. The IO, they didn't give up. There were more and more earthquakes that started happening, destroying 7 outposts, as in outposts for the 7, not 7 random outposts. All while this is happening, we're nearing closer and closer to the next season. However, due to real life events, Fortnite realized it probably wasn't a good idea to drop teasers for a war-themed season at this point in time. What was gonna happen next? Something big. In fact, this big thing that was gonna happen next season was something that no one ever thought Epic would do. They took a giant risk. Next season would be an interesting one. One that would change Fortnite forever.
They're gonna
risky.
shoot you down.
Oh my god!
Yes! Yes!